Okay, it's test time. It's also almost 2:15. The first question is, how many people were killed by Chernobyl?
50,000.
Still dying.
Still dying. 1 million.
But they always lie anyway.
Did you just guess 1 million?
1 million.
No, I know that.
Well, the answer that the New York Academy of Sciences has come up with is about 900,000 people. And yet you'll hear these people on TV say, what?
Add a few 100,000 and you might get close.
Right, so this New York Academy of Sciences report was featured this last week on TUC radio. If you listen to KMUD. And if you don't listen to KMUD, you can actually go to the TUC radio site. And Maria did a whole special on this report, and I think she's doing a part 2 next week. And you really want to check it out. And also at her site, you can find a place to download the PDF for free. It's been out of print. They only made 700 of these reports, but now they're going to republish it. You know, when I think about what Obama's doing, and I think about all of these guys, you know what they remind me of? They remind me of meth freaks. You know, because when you take meth, you have this feeling of additional energy. But there's really no future focus for your life when you do that. You don't think about, well, is this going to really reduce my overall fitness as a human being? Is it going to shorten my life? Well, these guys don't have any excuse. They know. I mean, are you going to tell me that Obama is ignorant of how deadly offshore oil, mountaintop removal coal mining, and nuclear power are? But yet, it seems to be a culture of meth freaks. Also, does anybody else just feel nuts because it seems like we have to fight for sanity now when we talk about politics? You know, ever tried to talk about an issue to a totally raving lunatic? I have. And it's not very easy. Also, I want to tell you about a letter I wrote to Google Earth. About 1983, when I moved to San Francisco, there was a PCB spill south of Market. And actually, it was a couple of weeks before I moved there. And I followed it in the news. And then when I got up there, I realized, you know, if I hadn't followed it in the news, I wouldn't know that this location was toxic. Now, they say they cleaned it up, but I'd still like to know, wouldn't you? So I wrote to Google Earth requesting a project that I originally called Poisoned Paradise. And the idea was that anybody, any students, any researchers, anybody who works for a bureaucracy would start to accumulate on something like Google Earth, which didn't exist then, pinpoint exactly where spills have happened. You could go through the documents. As news stories happen, you can put things on there. But the idea is to accumulate a record so that if you want to move someplace, you could look it up and you'd be able to find out all of the places, all of the spills that might have happened there, or other kinds of toxic releases. And likewise, I think we can do something with radiation levels. If people around the country and around the world start going out and measuring radiation levels, and that's pinpointed on Google Earth, I think we will discover some areas that are being hidden right now. So I haven't heard back from them. I just sent the letter to them this week. If you like that idea, you might want to write to them as well.
Great idea.
Also, one of the things that, it's one of my favorite lines about nuclear power that we don't realize, because we do talk about the toxicity, is if you want to talk to a Fox News viewer, ask them how they can justify this unfunded mandate. We've got maybe 100, 200 years of nuclear power. Yet, the next millions of years of human beings are going to have to tax themselves to protect themselves from our radioactive waste. Talk about an externality. I mean, millions of years of externality. So I want to pass that on to you. And let's see. Yeah, and also one of the paradigms that locks us into the kind of programs we have with energy is the California mandate for PG&E. Now, PG&E, compared to any other energy corporation, has done more to buy negawatts. Do you know what negawatts are? Negawatts are if you can pay to cause someone's refrigerator to be more energy efficient, then you don't have to pay to buy the energy to make to feel the difference between the old refrigerator and the new one. And so they've done a lot of stuff to do conservation, but that doesn't allow them to reduce how much they produce. So the question posed to us by Paul Roller was, Well, if we shut down nukes, then what do we replace it with? And that's what they have to do by law. They have to maintain a level of energy production. So they can't even reduce their energy generation. So the paradigm's got to be changed. Now, I've been doing this activism my entire life. I'm 53, and I don't like the fact that I've had to devote my life to it. And the only reason I've done it is that I haven't run away from what's going on. I care about people, and I care about the planet. And yet, we keep doing the same things over and over. The climate crisis has made things a little clearer for me, because it's really, like Al Gore, when he put out his book Earth in the Balance, said that the ecological catastrophe had to be the central organizing principle for our society. Now I would tell you that I think the climate crisis has. And in a way, it's fortunate for us, because by Ronald Reagan not doing anything on the climate issue, all of the reform measures, all of, give somebody some tax write-offs and give them some little appropriate technology here, none of that's going to do it now. Going back to what I said, in 1990, that was the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which won the Nobel Prize with Al Gore. That was the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the Woods Hole Research Center. They are the ones who were saying in 1990 that we had to meet these reductions of 55 to 80% by 2000 and 2005. And of course, since then, we've learned that these were underestimates. So if you put aside the politics for a second and we start talking as people who have to solve a problem, what would you do? Well, I came up with this program to have a national emergency declared and to fight to reduce, to organize and fund to reduce our emissions in the next 10 years. I don't know how to do it faster than that. But I do know that Europe has about half the energy consumption per capita and about the same lifestyle we have. So I wanted to announce today that I am running against Mike Thompson for Congress. And the reason for that, thank you, the reason for that is when I look at the climate issue, I look at, well, who can fix this? How about these international treaties? Can't the countries come together and get some treaties passed? Well, obviously, no. And Obama, as well as Bush before him, aren't going to let that happen. Well, there's a really cool effort by hundreds of mayors and governors around the country who are, they came together during the Bush administration, the Bush coup, and the idea was that Bush wasn't going to do anything on the climate issue, so if we wanted to save our necks, the governors and mayors would have to do it. But the problem is what they're asking for is more like 30% reduction. So working on the state and local level isn't going to cut it. So that leaves two things. One, personal lifestyle choices. Well, we've been saying this stuff since 1970. Remember Earth Day? That was 41 years ago. 41 years. Lifestyle choices hasn't done it, even moving back to the land and growing pot like people do here. So it only leaves the federal government, and the federal government has three branches: the president, the court, and Congress. And I think probably Obama or Al Gore is about as good as we can get for president in this system, because they have to get votes in the South and elsewhere. And obviously we don't have much of a say on who's in the Supreme Court, because the president determines that. So that just leaves Congress. Now, I got this idea because a few elections back I was looking at how many votes Mike Thompson had to get to win. Now, our district was gerrymandered to be very, very Democratic. When Mike runs against a Republican, he gets 2 votes for every vote the Republican gets. So the way to defeat Mike originally, until this election law was passed, this new election law with the open primaries, was to defeat him in the primary. And when I first looked at this, he got 80,000 votes running unopposed. So if somebody ran against him then, they'd have to get 40,000 votes plus 1. Well, in this last election, he got 55,000 votes, which means if someone wants to defeat him, they have to get 27,501 votes. Well, that's manageable in a district of 660,000 people. This district, the 1st District of California, runs from the Oregon border down to just north of Santa Rosa, and then it cuts across Lake County, Napa County, and includes a part of Yolo County, the best part, as far as I'm concerned, UC Davis. We don't have an entrenched military presence here. Arkley's about as big as it gets when it comes to economic entrenched interests. Our biggest economic, biggest industries, marijuana and wine. this is a very unique district. This is a place where we can get focused. But the thing is, we have to stop thinking about elections as something that you get together every 2 years to do. And we have to stop thinking that everyone who runs is one of these corporatists. I am an anti-corporatist. I am an Earth Firster and proud. I've been an Earth First since 1985. The BBC considers me a world historic figure because I invented sabotaging genetic engineering test sites. I'm also an Eagle Scout. And my Earth First work, like that of Dana Lyons and Dave Foreman, comes out of our being Eagle Scouts. So what we're trying to do is, in 2006, there were about 15 or 17 congressional races around the country where the Democrat won by 5,000 votes or less. And that was with the assistance of these netroots people. If they hadn't done it, that'd be 15 fewer seats. So I think overall around the country what we should be doing is organizing year after year to just get that additional number of votes by which a centrist usually loses to a progressive or a green, and the amount of votes that a Democrat loses to a Republican. When you realize that only 1 in 4 adults actually vote, half the adults are registered and half of those turn out, there's a huge potential for a bunch of new people to come into this process. So what we have to do is invade Congress. And as one person, there's not a lot that I can do, except it turns out that there's now 1 and maybe 2 other people who want to follow me. I think that by using these net tools and our community organizing, putting on events like this, mastering the net tools, getting our videos out, the rest of it, and I have 2,500 Facebook friends who are all around the world who are spreading things out for me, that we can, with those 2 tools, get the 27,500 plus 1 and start to do this around the country. And apparently one of the people that I thought could do this in another district is going to do it. That's Norman Solomon. And possibly another person I've been saying can do it is Jim Hightower. So there are people like Winona LaDuke, Aaron Brockovich, you can name a bunch of them, that I think who are much more famous than me. I mean, these are media figures. That we should get behind these people and make sure they live in districts that are also unique. Maybe Boulder is a district. You might want to start doing some research. It would be helpful. But my plan is that for me to get in 2012 and then have maybe 5 people follow by 2014, we'd have a little team in there that could shut down business as usual. Plus, we have live TV every day. I don't know if you watch C-SPAN, but some of these guys, there's actually a Republican from Maryland who does a great thing on energy, like an hour-and-a-half long. So what I'll do as the first person in there is I will start to educate Americans about ecotopia. Right now, Americans don't demand it because they don't know what it means. So we need to educate the American public. And when they understand what the options are, that it's not nuclear versus coal or nuclear versus petroleum, that we do have these other ways of doing it, people will demand it. And I think the biggest failing of the Green Party, and I've been involved in the Green Party since 1979, when we put the first Green Party together in this country, the Citizens Party. And I think the biggest failure of our movement is that we didn't take advantage of this to educate people about the options. We were just kind of a leftist party, and we kind of got behind Nader, and some people didn't, and we have an incredible love for process. So the Green Party also has a bunch of barriers against getting people elected. However, things are changing now because of this open primary. And I called the elections office, and it seems like there's not going to be primaries anymore. There's one big primary that we all run in, and the top 2 vote getters run in the final one. So it's a little different now. The math is a little different. But the program that I think we need to educate people on, I call New Green America, and it's 7 fundamental issues where Americans are just completely screwed up. The first is the climate crisis. The second is that we have to do bioregional conversion. The third is we have to end the empire. We have to make the defense policy of the United States to protect Americans and their property in the U.S. We have to end corporate personhood. We have to end the drug war and legalize marijuana. We have to then go after the Bush coup and the Supreme Court justices and Henry Kissinger and these people who, I mean, look at it. Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon, and then Reagan got away with Iran-Contra and all the Central American wars. And on until we have George W. Bush actually overthrow the presidency. So we have to stop that. And the 7th one is for you, Leo, paper ballots. Okay, so my campaign is about educating people on that. And I have a website, caffreyforcongress.org. And I'm saying this now because we want to do it 250, and I'm also a 215 patient. So that's all I want to say now about that. Thank you. And now we have Jan Truesdale come up and do a song.